it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualized, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live right now or post a new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as we go along if you're enjoying the content. If you don't know who I am Sandra Bellamy, author of Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, a celebration of asexual diversity, which is beautiful book. I'm also the founder of asexualise.com and the founder of Asexualise Academy. Welcome to what day are we on now? 23 of Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month was launched in 2017 when I published this book in print format in July 2017, which celebrates our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. And today I'm going to be reading excerpts out from the book which can show you how a relationship between a sexual person and an asexual person can in fact work. There is examples of this in my book. So if you're an asexual who's thinking about having a relationship with a sexual and you're thinking, how can it possibly work? Because, you know, we're different. This is how some people's relationships manage to make that dynamic work. So I'm reading from the book as usual during Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, and I'm going to be reading people's stories. So the first story I've got coming up right here, right now, is a non's story, short for anonymous. Right, okay. Are you currently in a relationship, and if so, is it with another asexual? Or is it a sexual person, and how is either working out? I'm currently in a relationship that has lasted since October the 26th, 2013. Bear in mind, this book was published in 2017, but it was published at the beginning of 2017 in the ebook copy. So we had a rough patch that lasted from August 2015 to January 2016. But other than that, we mostly get along. He is most certainly not asexual. He is heterosexual. Other than him trying to get me into sex, we are great together for the most part. We have a best friends aspect to us, and I enjoy the intimate, non-sexual moments. As for the non-penetration sexual acts he tries with me, I don't care for it, but I compromise on it. I don't hate it, but I'm more apathetic about it. He assumes my physical arousal is me being turned on, even though I feel nothing in regard to sexual desire. So yeah, I think that gets quite disturbing when your partner's trying to coerce you into doing sexual acts and stuff, even when you're not really that interested. I think it can be a bit psychologically damaging and disturbing if they keep going on about it to you. I think it can be not so good. I mean, obviously, if you're with a sexual person, you know, you might think about compromise. And if you are happy, really happy with it, that's fine. But, you know, to feel that, you know, everything's okay apart from if they try and force you into you doing sexual acts or even not forcing you, if they keep pushing you into sexual acts, you know, that you're not keen on doing, I think that can become quite bad for the mind after a while. It's a bit like someone going on at you about something you don't want to do and just repeatedly going on and on and on at you. Do you know what I mean? It wears you down after a while. So I don't think that's that healthy, to be honest, in my opinion. I don't know what you think. Right, this is Ari's story. Currently in a relationship for the last 4 months. My boyfriend isn't asexual as far as I know. It's working out well. I like hanging out with him and talking and taking time aside to spend together. I like to live closer to him instead of usually talking over the internet, and hope to move to the same city when I need a new job in a few months. But I do worry having a long distance relationship has allowed us to push off talking about sexual issues. I'm entirely happy with how things are now and don't want anything else / more. He does like things like cuddling more than I do, though he doesn't push past what I'm comfortable with, and presumably would like a more physical relationship at some point. I don't know how that will work out. Yeah, and I think that's the difference, and difficulty. If you do get into a long distance relationship with a person who's sexual and you haven't really been close to each other physically in close proximity without even having sex, you don't know how it's going to work out. You don't know how they're going to be. Likely if they're heterosexual, it's going to be difficult for them to be around you and not to physically want to have sex with you if they are if they're a sexual person that likes sex, which most of them do, although you can get sex repulsed heterosexuals, for example, sex repulsed sexuals. So, I think in terms of Ari's story, the long distance is kind of a asexual thing, isn't it? It's it's a very asexual thing. It's like, it doesn't matter about the absence of sexual attraction because you can have this deep emotional connection and love across the internet. It can happen quite easily, actually, because the more you message and share secrets and thoughts and feelings with each other, the more intimacy you create. And so that is how you can end up falling in love on the internet, really. But, until you spend time with that person and be physically around them day in, day out, you're not going to know what that person's like and what their physical expectations are. How much kissing, how much touching they want to do, how much physicality they want. And so, personally, I think it's always best to meet the person in person before getting into a relationship with someone. But, love can take over and you just end up being in a long distance relationship. It does happen, so I guess you have to reassess the situation at the time. You meet up, but it can just be very damaging if there's a lot of emotional investment there, and then you get together and find out this just can't work because we're too different in physical needs. So I would always recommend trying to meet up before you actually officially get into a relationship with them. I really would. So that's Ari's story. It's Adora's story. Are you currently in a relationship? If so, is it with another asexual or is it a sexual person? How is that working out? My husband is allosexual. Allo meaning all, sexual, so he's heterosexual. But he's definitely sexual. I mean, I guess he could be bisexual or anything like that. But my husband is allosexual, so he's definitely a sexual person. That's what born sexual. He wants sex, right? But he has asked me about asexuality, and he understands to a certain extent how I feel. As I'm sex positive, we do negotiate times to have sex. He will let me know in advance that he's interested, and unless I'm really not feeling up to it, I'll have sex with him. It works out well for us in that he gets to have the sex he wants while my boundaries are respected. So yeah, if you are an asexual that doesn't mind having sex, then I think negotiating how much sex you have, how long you have it for, or sometimes you don't know how long it's going to last for. But I guess if you're a person that just likes it over and done with quickly, then you're not going to mind not having foreplay. But if you want to experience some nice sexual touching and physical stimulation without the actual intercourse, then you're going to want them to do lots of foreplay. So it's good to discuss all this type of thing beforehand. Discuss your sexual needs or asexual sexual needs. If you're an asexual that doesn't mind being touched and actually likes that and to be stimulated, but you don't want the sex. Oh, hi Heather, there is a lot of ghosting as well out there. Sorry, I didn't see your message earlier. I do apologize. Yeah, you were talking about the internet one, weren't you? And I was reading, was that Ari's story? Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of ghosting out there as well. That is why I really strongly recommend you meet someone in person before you get into a relationship with them. I know with the internet, though, it can be quite difficult because you can just decide you want to be committed to each other. But to be honest, you don't really know how committed that other person is until you meet them in person, Obviously, I recommend Skype, dating, and if you're in a relationship, you know, you should certainly be Skyping the person, because that's the next best thing you can get to being with them. But even so, you know, Skyping's just seeing a fraction of their life. It's not seeing how they live day to day. It's not seeing their mood swings, their attitude, the feel when you're near them. It's not, you know. And you know, there are sadly some people who build up strong relationships, or they think they've built up a strong relationship, and then the person does disappear, you know, and they've wanted for so long to have that person in reality, you know, off the internet, and then the time comes when they're going to meet and it doesn't happen. So, you know, I think it's very difficult. I think modern dating in and of itself is really difficult, no matter what sexual orientation you are, because you know, you know, people are just in swipe culture, like swipe this person, swipe that person, might want this person, might want that person, swipe this way, swipe that way, you know, and literally you can get access to hundreds of people all at once. So disposable, yes, Heather. I think a lot of people these days do dating and they got the attitude of disposal. It is sad, you know. I really, really would love to have a serious and committed relationship with an asexual foreign guy, preferably in the UK, who is really honest, open, sincere, and who is 100% faithful. You know, even a lot of asexuals aren't, that I see on the dating sites, they're not that serious, you know, and some of them, guys even, they go around chatting up loads of women just for the sake of chatting them up and for their egos. And I just think that is sad. Friends do it too, which is sad. Yeah, friends do. I mean, a true friend shouldn't ever dispose of you, you know. And yeah, you've touched a raw nerve there with me, Heather, because I've been friends with someone for a long time, and I had to say some things that I wasn't comfortable about, and at the moment I haven't heard back from them. So yeah, that's been difficult at the moment. I'm hoping that they're gonna make contact with me again when they're ready to. So yeah, it is very sad and difficult, you know. And it makes it harder to trust. I think it makes it very difficult to trust someone. I think, you know, there are very few people that you can actually trust to be in a relationship with, and someone who's going to actually last the distance with you, you know, someone who's going to put the time, energy, and effort into being with you. You know, I could not be with a sexual person unless they didn't want penetrative sex and they were okay with not touching me in certain places, you know, and they didn't mind me not being naked with them, which is a big ask for someone who's sexual, you know. And they didn't mind taking care of themselves physically. Do you know what I mean? Because I deserve the monogamy that other people have. That's why people have mental problems. People have mental problems, what? Because it's such a disposable modern living, do you think? Or do you think it's, you know, people have mental problems because of the differences in relationships? Because of the difference in the relationships. I think a lot of people have mental problems. Oh, disposable. I think a lot of people have mental problems as well because if they're abused by their partner, there's a lot of abuse in relationships without it being, you know, sexual even. Regardless of what orientation you are, there's a lot of abuse, and I think that's why a lot of people can have some mental problems, because I mean, really, we're responsible for ourselves, we're responsible for our own actions, we choose who we with and stay with. But when you're in abusive relationships, they kind of got this like magnetic hold over you, and they make you feel so bad about yourself that you're not going to be able to get anyone else, that you're not worthy, that you're so unlovable or whatever, that no one would want you as you are. And they ram that message in your head that you then believe it. And so it keeps you trapped in that abuse, and you choose that way because you think, at least I can get a little bit of so-called love and I can't get it anywhere else. And that's actually what is very damaging mentally to people. And that, I think, is a huge part of why people have mental health problems. I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily a relationship you're in to have that sort of abuse. You know, you could have had friends or family that dominate you, that ruled your life, that control you, or that just downright horrible to you. And they just go on and on about things they don't like about you, put you down. And so that's why I think a lot of people have mental problems. I think a lot of people have mental problems because people bully them at school. I think a lot of people have mental problems because of other people, the way other people treat them. And I think, especially as a kid, if you've had this sort of treatment as a kid, you can't speak for yourself. People can't deal with the situation. Well, yeah, I mean, you're trapped. If you're a kid, you are trapped, you know. If you've got you can be financially trapped as well. And, you know, I think a lot of people have mental problems because they got no support and understanding when they were a kid. They were made to feel bad about themselves. And therefore, as an adult, they still have those patterns ingrained in their brain. And when certain situations crop up, they may end up in unhealthy situations again. I'm thankful now that I do have a lot of self-love. But back in my past, when I didn't, I would end up being in relationships, which could be friendships, with people who were no good for me. They were very selfish. They were very wanted it their own way. They, you know, unless I was doing things their way, they didn't really want to know. And so it was difficult, you know. And I think as an adult, you just have to realize that it's okay to let these people go, you know, out of your life, and that you can get better friends and better people who care about you. But a lot of people have mental problems because of their childhood, in a nutshell. A lot of takers, yeah. There's a lot of takers. I think if someone can't say sorry, if they've got a huge problem using the word sorry or saying sorry to anyone, everyone, I think they're not a good person. They often have some narcissistic traits. It's like my way or the highway. So I think anyone who has an inability to actually apologize to another human being, because they're not always going to be right. There's going to be times when they do things that's not going to be good or can be wrong, even if it's accidental. You know, I've said sorry to people. You know, I make mistakes. I'm not infallible, but I try and say sorry, and you know what I mean. But people who have an inability to ever say sorry, it means they never think they're wrong, usually. And if they never think they're wrong, you have to live by their terms. You understand, Heather? Yeah, you have to live by their terms all the time. And if you don't live by their terms, you don't fit into their contract of life with you, then they dispose of you because you've broken that contract, being in a life under their terms, which goes back to the disposable thing. But a lot of people, in my experience, have mental health problems because of their childhood. That's a lot of where it stems from. The fact that they've been bullied, the fact they've been told they're worthless, the fact they've been told they can't be who they are, they've been punished for who they are. Validation, well, a lack of validation, isn't it, Heather? You know, like they're not, you know, no one, it's the opposite of validation. So I think you naturally need some validation in your life. And when you've got people around you that aren't healthy for you, they violate you. Instead of validating you and making you feel good and positive about yourself, yeah, lack of validation. It's violation, really. The opposite of validation is like violation to a certain extent, because they violate. They really do. They violate your boundaries. They violate your personal space. They violate you as a human being. And, you know, if you ever turn around and decide to not play ball with them anymore, could get quite nasty, or just end up being disposable, basically. And I think that's really sad, but it happens. And you just have to get better friends and more caring people in your life, you know? I used to think I didn't make friends easily years ago, but now I make friends more easily than I did. especially as in the lovely asexual community. And I am an extrovert, but I do have a lot of introvert tendencies, in the sense I spend a lot of time on my own, and I like to get engrossed in my own books that I'm writing, in things I'm doing at home. I have to take time out from social media a lot. Sometimes, especially weekends, like to get my asexual sex stories book done. But I'm actually working in collaboration with other asexuals on that. It's been a really good journey, because I felt like I've been working with people rather than on my own. Because a lot of the time as a writer is quite solid. So I can't remember how you pronounce the word. You're on your own, so it's solitary. I think that's the word I'm looking for. You're on your own a lot of the time. And it's been nice to have some collaboration. And I think that's what friendships and relationships should be about: collaboration. And it should be about growth. You both growing yourself. I think if either person's holding the other person back, or either person's damaging the other person's spirit, and even if they don't mean to, it requires a lot of open, honest conversation. But if people are not that bothered, like you said, Heather, it'll just be disposable. And I do believe people have mental health problems in part. Well, it's a lot of it's to do with childhood. And I do believe it's because of other people a lot of the time, but also not just other people. It's the way you deal with other people, So as you get older, you have to try and learn to know that it's their problem. It's not your problem. How people behave and treat you, it's up to you whether you accept that behavioural treatment. Do you know what I mean? And so there's a certain amount of responsibility that you have to take as an adult to say, I'm not having this anymore. But obviously, as a child, there can be a lot of damage done, and that goes into a lot of adulthood. And you can have repercussions, you can have reoccurring circumstances. I mean, I had a Skype date tonight, which really turned out to be like a beautiful Gars. Yes, Heather, exactly. I had a Skype date tonight, which really turned out to be more of a beautiful Skype chat with an asexual person I just met on ASAP, and I think we'll be really good friends. I identify as demi-romantic. They're clearly very aromantic, so I don't think they're probably gonna like me in a romantic way. They're very beautiful, I think, in their face and in their soul and their heart, and that was nice. I feel they're quite trustworthy and honest and open. They're a really good listener, really attentive. I'm not used to that kind of attentiveness. It's the kind of attentiveness, I deserve to have, but I'm not used to it. I thought it was really nice. They loved listening to me, and they said I'm a great storyteller. Thank you, Heather. And that was nice to say I was a great storyteller, because obviously I like public speaking. I like to do more of it. And you have to be a great storyteller to do that. And they were they looked like they were mesmerised by what I was telling them. I was doing most of the talking, to be honest. I would have liked them to talk probably a little bit more about themselves and their life, but they were so attentive and great at listening to me. I just felt so good. And they said they'd like to do it again because they find me interesting, which is nice. And so, I think they'll be a good friend of mine. I feel like I've made a good friend there already, even though I don't know the person that well. We have some things in common. I do like them a lot. I think they're quite nice person. And, it's a shame really they're not romantic, because I think that could have been quite good if they were, but they're clearly aromantic, even though they identify as demi-romantic. They've only felt that type of attraction once to someone. And so, I don't really think I could hold out for that, because I don't feel that we'd be so into physical kissing like I would and stuff. But, I think the person's really beautiful. I think their soul's so nice. I feel very comfortable, like this is a friend I'll probably have for life, so long as they want to be my friend for life, because I just think they're that type of person. Is quite committed to friendships. So that was really nice. Yeah. It's nice to be listened to a lot, actually. I'm not used to it. Well, you listen to me, Heather. Bless you, on this channel. Oh, if I can have a thumbs up for this video, it'd be nice. It'd be really sweet. But yeah, Heather, you're always here supporting me nearly every single night. And I love you to bits. It's amazing. It's really good. I haven't. Thank you for the thumbs up. I haven't been like on Facebook as much because I'm trying to get my book done. Like over the last Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I've been working quite a lot on my book, my Asexual Sex Stories book. Not so much yesterday, but definitely over Saturday and Sunday. I did a bit more editing, like with a couple of stories later in the middle of the night, like last night, which was really this morning. And that's going really well. I'm really pleased with that, you know. But I think, you know, in general, I think it can be very difficult for asexuals and sexuals to make it work. But obviously, there's people in my book that do make it work. Do you know what I mean? Is there any more in here? Oh, okay. So, this is. Did I read Anne's story? I don't think I've read Anne's story yet, have I? I'll read this one. Are you currently in a relationship? And if so, is it with another asexual or is it a sexual person? How's that working out? So Anne said, yes, I'm currently with my boyfriend, who I can truthfully say is the only person I've loved in such a way. I don't believe he's asexual, although he does have a certain level of discomfort, perhaps aversion, to discussing sex sometimes, especially with anyone who he's not with. I would say he's a heteromantic heterosexual, but I don't think he's ever been with someone he fully trusted or even felt completely comfortable around. He was the first to admit that he didn't think he had ever been in love before. The same conclusion I eventually came to when trying to figure out why this relationship with him was so different to the ones I had before. And I think that's really nice. You know, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And yeah, they're demisexual as well. So I think demisexuals can be very misunderstood. I think people can think, well, what's the difference between a demisexual and an average sexual person? Because obviously most sexuals do still need an emotional connection for a long-term committed relationship, you know? So you could argue that, oh, well, what's the difference? Because demisexual is someone who can only feel sexual attraction once a deep emotional bond has been formed. But that's the difference. They can only, and if they ever experience that, the rest of the time, their feelings are asexual. You know, they don't get the need, urge, or want for sex. They don't feel sexual attraction. And Anne's story really demonstrates that well. You know, it's the only person they've really felt that for. You know, only person they've really felt that for. And, you know, I do think that's very special, you know. I mean, you know, the thing that attracted to me to the guy before I Skype dating tonight was the fact he was demi-romantic, which means a demi-romantic, well, it still identifies as that. A demi-romantic can only feel romantic attraction for someone they're in a deep, you know, someone they form a deep emotional connection with. And so that's very rare. And I kind of like that. I have said on this channel before, I would like to be possibly with a demi-romantic because I think that makes it more special. You know, kind of know that they're not going to be going around fancying loads of people romantically because it's just not in their nature. It's not in their capability. And so therefore it makes it more special that they're not feeling romance for tons of people. Do you know what I mean? That's what does attract me to the idea of being with a demi-romantic. But then the rest of the time they're aromantic, so there's no romantic connection there. You know, like it was really interesting Skyping him because I could feel he's aromantic. I can feel the difference between when I speak to someone romantic and him that's aromantic. He's a beautiful individual, really nice person. So I hope we'll be really good friends. And I did feel really comfortable around him. He is younger. He's like 31, so obviously a bit older than I would usually speak to in terms of like I usually speak to guys in their 20s, but he's young. He's I like he is young. Like I would say he's a good age. I mean, technically the way he looks and his age would be good to be in a relationship with. Obviously I don't think he's ever going to want that with me because I don't think he's not romantically inclined towards me, certainly not at the moment, and might never probably never be, but I don't think he's romantically inclined in general. I think the demi-romance is very, very rare for him by the sound of it. So, you know, but I just feel it's nice to talk to someone who's young. I really need to be in a relationship with a younger guy, and this guy's foreign as well. And so I really do feel that I should be in a relationship with a younger foreign guy. I really do. It feels good to talk to a younger foreign guy. I feel like they're more on my wavelength. I'm more comfortable around them, and it's a nice feeling, you know. And for me personally, I think I could be, how can I put this? I don't think it's not I couldn't be with a sexual, but I couldn't be with them if sex they needed, you know. I think I could in some ways be very suited to a sexual because of all the kissing I like, but I wouldn't be because the sexuals need it to lead to sex, and I can't do that. I just can't do it. But because my kissing's so sexual behaviour, that's how I really suit a sexual person. But I can't do that. You know, like long term, I wouldn't be able to be in a relationship with a sexual because they want sex in the end. In my experience, all the ones I have met, and there's a degree of trust that I wouldn't have. I think if they're not having sex with me, they're getting it elsewhere. If they're highly sexual, obviously they would be basically. So for me personally, unless I was with a sexual person that had a low libido, a sexual person that was sex repulsed, a sexual that was impotent and can actually get an erection, basically. But I think with me, they possibly would, um, if it's possible. And because the way I like to kiss is very arousing. And you know, someone who's disabled who can physically have sex, it's possible I could be with someone like that, but their mindset is different, and that's why I don't think it work out even then. Because you know, a person who's physically disabled and can't have sex, their mindset still different. If they're a sexual person, they're usually like, oh, I really want sex, and feel frustrated that they can't have it unless the disability is such that it's just changed their hormones so they don't actually feel the urge for sex. And similarly, someone who's impotent, you know, they would presumably naturally get the urges still for sex or thoughts of sexual things, but yet not be able to act on them because that stopped them. And so again, it's a different mentality. And I need someone who really understands the asexual mentality, the asexual mindset, I should say. I need someone who really understands me as a person, who really can live without sex openly, honestly, and not want another woman. And I think that's very rare to get. It's very hard to get compatible. But you know, there are asexuals in my book that clearly made it work. You know, you could debate whether everything in there is a good thing with what they've said. But, you know, I do think, like I said, the dating world's very difficult. And I think, you know, like the chances of an asexual person being with a sexual person is still very high because we're only 1% of the population. If you can make it work, great. I would say, you know, be very open and honest from the very beginning. If you know you're asexual, don't be with a sexual person and not tell them. That's not fair. Just like it's not fair to an asexual for a sexual person to expect an asexual to have sex with them because they're with them or they love them. It's not fair of an asexual person to keep that from their sexual partner. You know, it's not right to do that. So you should be upfront, open and honest. And then if the sexual decides they want to be with you and can live without sex, that's up to them. But bear in mind, you know, they might still just be saying that because they think you might change your mind, or they might be saying it and getting their sex elsewhere. And if you're monogamous, that's going to be an issue. It's not going to be right. They're not going to be faithful to you. So I think I think you really have to have a lot of communication. If you're an asexual who's going to be with a sexual, you have to have strong boundaries in place, really strong. You have to say to the beginning, if you're sex repulsed or don't want sex, you have to say to the sexual person, you know, if we have a relationship or even just date, you know, there will be no sex. I'm not interested in sex. I don't like sex. I don't want it. And you have to be really strong because obviously you don't want any situations like the potential of rape could get in the way, you know? And if you don't tell the sexual person you hate sex, then the onus is on you that you haven't said it. And if you start going along with the sexual acts and start going along with sex when really you don't want it, you know, it's not their fault you haven't told them. However, if you clearly don't want it and you've told them you don't want it, then obviously they would be at fault and doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, and they could be sexually abused, basically. So, you know, you really have to be, for your own safety and security, upfront with the sexual person. Say, look, I'm asexual. I'm not interested in sex. Don't like it. Don't want it. You can tell them if there's any sexual acts you like or what you don't like. You can tell them boundaries, what parts of the body they can touch of yours, what parts they can't. And you can literally lay it down for them. Say, this is going to be your physical relationship life with me. Now, how do you feel about that? What things do you want? But, you know, you can't do things over a prolonged period of time, if you want a long-term committed relationship, which hurt you, which damage your soul, which make you feel bad because you don't really want to do them. And you're pushing yourself and forcing yourself to do stuff you don't really want to do, because that'll just make you miserable. And you'll find you'll probably become more distant from your partner, you know? I mean, on this channel, the most comments I've got from sexuals is their partners don't even want to kiss and cuddle them as asexual. And that's because traditionally and stereotypically, when an asexual person is going to kiss their sexual person, the sexual person is going to ultimately just get the urge, need, and want for sex. And they're going to push for that. And this is not the case with all sexuals. You know, I've dated heterosexuals and they haven't tried to push me, you know? But, you know, they will always try and kind of like, some of them will always try and touch you a little bit further. So if I say don't touch here, then they will always try and touch you nearer it. So they're still edging their bets. Do you see what I mean? So you've got to be very, very careful. You've got to set boundaries up, maintain them, sustain them. Obviously, the difficulty is you might get into a relationship with a sexual and you might think, actually, I do want to have some sexual acts. I don't mind it with them. It could be quite fun. Or you might even want intercourse and change your mind lately. But you have to still be keeping boundaries and state, you know, if you want to try sex, you have to like state, I just want to try it, but I'm not giving any guarantees. I'm not saying I ever want to do it with you again. At the moment, it's going to be a one-off. The danger with that is once you start having sex at once, they'll think, well, you've done it once, why not do it more? You know, especially if you love me and you were attracted enough to me to do it in the first place. So you see where the sexual mentality is going. So it can be very difficult. Just talk to them, open communication, honest communication all the time. I think a strong sexual person can kiss you and be intimate without pushing you for intercourse, even though they'll want it. But it requires you to be very super strong yourself in the first place and literally say, this is off the table. I don't want it. I don't need it. I'm not having it. And make it categorically clear, because they know then they try and do stuff you don't want, and that can be rape, and they can get done for it and sued and in prison, basically, and go to court and all the rest of it, police involved. So they don't want that. You know, a good, strong, fairly nice, I'm not going to say really nice because they're not always really nice, fairly nice, at least decent sexual guy in the sense of got something about him, you know, and you know, they don't want to, you know, it's kind of a threat to them if they don't respect your boundaries and they don't listen to you, because they can potentially, you know, like end up in court, end up a criminal by forcing themselves on you when they don't want it. And they don't want that. You know, any sane sexual person would not want that on their conscience. They wouldn't want it, you know, like even if they're selfish and they're not thinking about you, they wouldn't want it from their own point of view, because why would they want to go into jail? Why would they want to go to court? Especially when there's tons of other sexual people out there that they can easily get into a relationship with. So I think if you lay it down the line, you spell it out for them from the beginning, I think, you know, and really be strong in it, like adamant, this is what I want, then I think that bodes well for a really good relationship. And, you know, you should, you know, if you want to try sex or have it, you know, have it sometimes, you need to negotiate those times. Like, how many times is the maximum you'll have it in a week or a month? Like, and, you know, what type of preparation do you need to do for it? You know, like condoms and all that type of thing. And, you know, what about massaging each other? What about playing soft music, you know, setting the scene rather than just going into it? You know, do you want the sexual person, if you're going to try sex or have sex, do you want the sexual person to just be spontaneous with you, start touching you all over, then do it? Or do you want it to be very planned out? Like, because it's a big thing in your life, you know, like, oh, well, Tuesday, I guess you know, I know they want sex, they haven't had any while, so Tuesday I'll set that time aside to do that with them and be very, very mindful of it and plan it out. I mean, I'm not saying the sexual is always going to like that. I'm not saying it's going to be great in terms of it might start, you know, you might start getting anxious or worried about it, but you could get anxious and worried about it if they just start being spontaneous and start touching you and ripping your clothes off, for example. Whereas if it's planned, you might feel safer, more comfortable about it, more like it's planned, and, you know, but you always have the right to change your mind. And I think that's important. You always have the right to decide, well, I changed my mind. I didn't realize, but I don't want sex. You know, it's not for me. I've had to think about it. I consider it, but I don't want it. You know, that's it, you know, and they have to accept that, or you have to split up, because you can't have someone unless you either have to negotiate sex acts instead of penetration, or eventually you have to decide to split up if you're both different needs. There's no point in carrying on the relationship. You don't need to carry on a relationship that's no good for you, that's unhealthy, because there's thousands of people out there. There's thousands of sexuals. And I think that's what you have to remember. If you're going to be with a sexual person as an asexual person, you've got to think that there's tons of people out there. There's tons of sexuals out there that could try being with an asexual. Tons of them. So why settle for a sexual person who doesn't match your needs, who clearly wants sex when you don't and is pushing you for it, when there's other sexuals you could give a go to? I mean, the danger is you might think, well, this person in general's good, or they're not too bad, they don't push too much for sex, or I only have to do it once a week or whatever, and you might kind of like try and settle for that because you don't want to break up, because you think you're not going to get anyone else like that. But there are also thousands of asexuals out there, as well as thousands of sexuals. So you've got thousands of other sexuals to choose from. There's going to be some more people that are sexual that, give it a go without having sex. And there's loads of asexuals out there, thousands of them, I mean, that's what I was so happy about tonight when I Skyped this asexual guy. I'm like, yeah, this is a really good quality asexual guy. Really decent guy. I hope to meet more of these type of asexual guys in the UK. I like it. It's nice. It makes me feel a lot more confident going forward, that I will find someone good for a relationship for me in the future, whoever they may be. But I do still feel he's got to be younger and foreign. I really do feel that way. Whenever I speak to younger foreign guys, I get the feeling I'm meant to be with one that's most comfortable. It like fits like a glove. You know what I mean? It's a bit like putting a glove on. It's a perfect fit. It's really nice. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful, helpful, insightful. Thanks, Heather, for the thumbs up. If anyone else wants to give this video a thumbs up as you're watching it, it would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Love you, Heather, as always. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel and you're watching it right now, please hit the bell icon after you've subscribed so you get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. Like I said, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Share it if you think anyone will benefit from it. Don't forget, I'm live streaming every night for the whole of July for Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. And I will see you in the next video live stream. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining me. I love you lots. You're amazing. Thank you for your continued support. It means so much to have you here to chat to. It really does. It's enlightening and it's really good. It's nice to hear what you have to think as well. I do like the interaction. It's really important. So until next time, embrace your quirky and each other. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Take care. Lots of love. Bye. Bye.